This is the Everyday Encouragement Podcast with Beth Sargent, where you will be encouraged to be confident, courageous, and inspired in everyday life.
Welcome to the Everyday Encouragement Podcast. My name is Beth Sargent, your host. Every week, I am going to share encouragement that you can use every day in your workplace, in your family, as you follow your dreams, your goals, and as you go through seasons of life. I once read a quote that says, "You surround yourself with people that encourage you." All of us need someone to encourage us and to believe in us. Every week, I look forward to spending time with you, catching up with you, and encouraging you through life. I want this time with you to be like we are sitting at your favorite coffee shop and we are having a cup of coffee together. At the end of this podcast, I hope that you would subscribe, share, and give a 5-star review. When you subscribe, share, and give a 5-star review, that helps me to be able to reach more people, and that is my heart. I want to share with you today something I've struggled with for a very long time. I want to share with you about my struggle with insecurity and how it has kept me from living life fully and being all that God has created me to be. During our time together today, I want to talk with you about what insecurity is and what it looks like. I will be sharing my own personal story and the effects that insecurity can have on our lives and those around us. At the end of this podcast, I will share 3 action steps we can take today to overcome insecurity. I once read the definition for insecurity. It is uncertainty or anxiety about oneself and lack of confidence. In my book, Take Charge, where I share about my journey of becoming healthier and losing 100 pounds, I share something that happened to me that I'll never forget. One day, about 13 years ago, my husband and I were out shopping and spending our day off together. I walked past a particular department store that day, and they had the prettiest dresses in the window. I'd never been in that department store before, so I decided to go in and check it out. I walked in, and there were so many pretty clothes, and there was one particular dress that caught my eye in the window. I went over to the rack and started looking for my size. And here comes the most embarrassing moment that I'll never forget. I looked for someone to assist me. I found someone, and the moment she noticed me, she gave me the weirdest look, like I was an alien. I couldn't imagine why was she looking at me like that. I soon found out. I asked if she had my size in that dress. The only sizes I found on the rack were much smaller sizes, and she looked at me and said, "I'm so sorry, but we don't carry your size." I was so embarrassed. I was so ashamed, and I felt so insecure. I got out of that store as fast as I could before they would have a chance to even see the tears streaming down my face. I remember trying to get myself put back together before I saw my husband. And when I did see him and he said, "Hey, did you find a dress?" I did not even dare tell him what happened. I just said they didn't have my size. I have found that insecurity always sees what is missing about yourself. When we're insecure, we care too much about what people think. For a really long time, I allowed my insecurity of how I looked stop me from truly living the life that I was supposed to live. I would always put myself down. I had no self-confidence. I had to realize that my confidence and security, it came from God. I had to realize that I had to know how God created me and what He saw in me instead of me looking at all my faults and all my flaws. My security came from knowing that. When I was growing up in school, I was never good at sports. I was not musically talented. I was the kid that was always picked last on the team for a game. And I grew up always wondering, how am I going to be good at anything? Insecurity will make us selfish. It will cause us to be self-focused and looking at all of our faults and flaws and not seeing what truly is there. A long time ago, there used to be a show on TV, and it was called The Swan. And there was a lot of ladies that would enter into that show, and there were some that were picked, and they were ladies that had a problem with the way that they looked, whether it was they were overweight, they needed to lose weight, or they didn't like the way that their nose was structured, whatever it was, there were all these things on the outward appearance of them that they didn't like. They would go on this show and they would spend weeks, whether it was that they had to lose weight or they had to have plastic surgery and do all these changes. And then finally, there was this great big reveal. And the family came, everybody was ready for the reveal, and they would walk out, and people were shocked by the way that they looked. There was such a transformation. And even some of them, they didn't even look the same. They looked like a totally different person. And then later on, some of them were interviewed on a radio show, and they wanted to follow up and say, hey, how are you doing now that you've had all those changes, and how much happy are you in life? And it was very interesting what they had to say. And they said, we're not happier. We're actually sadder. Because the thing of it was they went and they did all of those changes on the outside, but they never changed what was going on the inside. And that's where they didn't overcome their insecurity. They had things that were going on the inside that needed to be taken care of. Whenever I had that extra weight that I was carrying, I was so insecure with the way that I looked. I was so insecure with the way that people saw me and maybe how they portrayed me. And I had so many insecurities with that. But even before that, before I had gained the weight when I started having children, I had insecurities that I felt like I wasn't smart enough, that I wasn't good enough. And if we're not careful, we can allow those insecurities to become excuses of why we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing. So here are a few things that I've learned since struggling with insecurity, what I've learned about insecurity. One thing I've learned about insecurity is that insecurity will keep us from pursuing our dreams. I want to ask you today, is insecurity keeping you from pursuing your dream? What's stopping you from going out and pursuing those dreams that are inside of you? I kept looking at myself and seeing all the things I wasn't good at, and I couldn't see what I was good at. I want you to know, whatever insecurities that you have, it's a roadblock to keep you from pursuing those dreams. God has put inside of me dreams, and I didn't know how I could do them because of how I saw myself. We have to know what those roadblocks are, and we've got to get rid of those roadblocks. God had called me to preach when I was 18 years old. I had so many reasons why. I just knew that wasn't going to happen. I didn't feel I was good enough. I didn't think that I was smart enough. And I started overcoming those insecurities, but then I had 3 children and started gaining weight. And then I found myself with the insecurity of my weight. I was embarrassed to be in front of people. I was afraid that when we went to school functions that my children may be embarrassed because their mom was overweight. I was just embarrassed to be in big crowds. And I allowed that to stop me from pursuing the dreams that God had put inside of me. And I had to let go of that insecurity, and I had to accept that I had what I needed to fulfill that dream because God had already put that inside of me. The second thing that I've learned about insecurity is that insecurity will keep you from advancing in your career. If we're not careful, we'll allow insecurity to keep us from advancing, and it will cause us to compare ourselves to others. We can't allow that to hold us back. We've got to focus on what we're supposed to do and let others do what they're supposed to do. The third thing that I've learned about insecurity is that insecurity will keep you from building healthy relationships. If we're insecure, then we're going to let that'll flow over into our relationships with other people. We'll start looking at our friend, our coworker, who seems like they have everything perfect. They're always ready. They're always put together. And then we'll look at ourselves and think, why couldn't I be like that? And then what happens is when you start comparing yourself with others, then you just start having an attitude with other people. We have to be so careful that we don't allow insecurity to keep us from building healthy relationships. Maybe you are insecure because you've been made fun of your whole life. Maybe it's because you've been hurt or because of your look. What happens is if we don't make the changes on the inside, then we're always going to be dealing with those insecurities. The only person that can stop you is you. I want to share action steps. Here are some action steps on how we can overcome insecurity today. The first thing we need to do is we need to find our security. The opposite of insecurity is security. Listen, your security is not in the size that you wear. Your security is not in the way that you look. Your security is not in how much education that you have. Your security is not in what kind of car that you drive. Your security can only be found through your relationship with the Lord. Psalms 139 is one of my favorite chapters in the Bible, and it talks about how God created us and how we are unique. There is no one in this world like you, and there is never going to be anyone in this world like you. God formed you and created you in your mother's womb, and there's no one else like you. He has put unique things inside of you, things for you to do. And you've got to know that your security lies in how He sees you and how He thinks of you. I want to ask you today, what could God do with you if you let go of insecurity and became secure in what He has created you to be? What could God do with you today if you would just let go of that insecurity? God will give you everything you need, and we can feel unqualified and we can feel like we don't have enough, but God will come and He'll provide everything that we need. The second thing that we can do to overcome insecurity is that we have to quit comparing ourselves to others. And we mentioned that earlier, that when we compare ourselves to others, we're taking the focus off of what God's trying to do in our life, and we're just comparing it to other people. And when we do that, we're going to come up frustrated. We're going to come up aggravated, because I'll tell you what, if you're looking to be frustrated, one way to be frustrated is if you're trying to be someone that you're not supposed to be. If you're trying to be like your coworker, you're going to be frustrated because you can only be the way that God has created you to be. The third thing that we can do to overcome insecurity today is to listen to the right voices. What is triggering your insecurity? Are there people in your life that are triggering the insecurity that you have? Are there toxic relationships that you're in? And when I talk about toxic relationships, I'm talking about, are there people in your life that are tearing you down? If you have friends that are tearing you down, that are bringing you down, that are telling you that you're no good, that you're never going to amount to anything, let me tell you something. Those aren't true friends. You need to let go of those friends. You may be in a relationship dating someone. You may be dating someone that tells you that you're no good, that tells you that you're stupid, that tells you that you're ugly and that you're fat and that you're never going to amount to anything. And if you're dating someone like that, I want to let you know now, you need to get out of that relationship. But then on the other hand, maybe today you may be married to someone and they don't see the good in you. Maybe they're tearing you down. In that situation, I suggest you get counseling, that you get help, that you talk to a godly counselor, and the two of you can work that out. And another voice, if we're wanting to have the right voices so we can overcome insecurity, is we've got to ask ourselves, are we telling ourselves lies? Are we saying that I'm never going to be good enough? I know that my mom or my dad or my grandpa or my grandma told me all my life that I was stupid and I was never going to be good enough. And I just know I'm not going to be good enough. There's nothing I know to do that's good. I'm never going to be pretty. I'm never going to be able to lose this weight that I need to lose. Those are all lies. We're going to focus on the right voices then we've got to understand what the lies are. You know, the Bible says that the enemy is a liar. That's what he does. If he's opening his mouth, all he's doing is lying. And I want you to know today that the way that I overcome those things is that I have to renew my mind daily with the Word of God. That means I have to get in the Word and see what God truly says about me, that I am the apple of His eye, that He loves me, that if I call on Him, He's going to answer me, that He'll never leave me, He'll never forsake me, that I am His beloved and He is mine, and that He loves me, that He's called me, He's created me, He's set me apart. And that's exactly what God has done for you today. So I encourage you that if you're going to overcome those insecurities today, you've got to hear the right voices. You've got to know the right voices. I want to leave with you this today. I believe in you. You've been created to do great things. Don't give up. Know that whatever it is, if you don't feel smart enough, or you don't feel like you're pretty, or you have that weight that you need to lose, I want to encourage you that you can do it. And I also want to encourage you that you are smart enough, that you are good enough. And I want you to know that God has created you on purpose for a purpose. He loves you. He loves you. I hope our time together has been an encouragement to you. Please remember to subscribe, share, and leave a 5-star review. I am praying for you.
Thank you for joining us for the Everyday Encouragement Podcast with Beth Sargent. Please subscribe, share with your friends, and leave a positive review.